You can't watch anything in the world of motorcycling these days without stumbling over 360 footage. Seriously, I challenge you.
You can't watch TikTok without some guy telling you how to mount it to your bike. You can't scroll Instagram without seeing third-person view shots. And you can't even watch an innocent motorcycle review on YouTube without a 360 camera being a motovlogger's second angle.
And about 99% of the time, the 360 camera in question is the X3 from Insta360. That must be because it's super high resolution and the frame rates are out of this world, right? Well, spoiler alert, they're not. They're just as good as is technologically possible right now. The resolution is actually relatively low by today's standards, and the frame rate is half of what most bikers want. And if I'm being honest, it's easy to scratch the lens, but the reason every biker buys their bike an X3 for Christmas is because the epic shots you can get from those cameras far outweigh the downsides. And it's still the best 360 camera on the market. Well, at least it was, until Insta360 outdid themselves and announced this.
The X4. And it fixes all of those issues I just mentioned. Thank you to Insta360 for sponsoring this video.
So yes, Insta360 paid me, which means this isn't an opinionated review. This is just me telling you about all the cool new features that bikers should definitely care about. I've been using their cameras since 2020, long before they paid me. So go and watch an older video I made about their cameras and see if my tone has changed about their cameras at all.
Clearing my conscience out of the way, here's the new X4. It looks very similar to the beloved X3, don't you think? It's a tad taller, a tad fatter, but the same width. It still has a lens on each side, a big beautiful screen that is actually a bit bigger and beautifuler. It still has a replaceable battery, an SD card slot, a USB-C port, a power button, and a custom mode button. And it still does all of the things people loved about the X3. It still automatically gets rid of the selfie stick. It still takes gorgeous 72 megapixel photos. It still has the quick menu where you can save your settings for different use cases as presets. And it's still compatible with the quick reader, so you can plug the SD card straight into your phone.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Except that I've managed to break 3 of those cameras now. Well, not really break, but scratch the lenses. And unfortunately, the lenses aren't replaceable. And then there's the resolution. The X3 has always filmed in 5.7K, which sounds very impressive when you consider that the standard for current content is only 4K.
However, that 5.7K is the resolution for the entire 360-degree image. So when you're forced to frame the shot in such a way people will be able to see, you're actually cropping the image down to 1080p or HD.
Which is kind of funny. A few short years ago, HD was considered amazing, and now we scoff at it.
It doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination, but when compared directly to a 4K image, you start to notice that it isn't as sharp as you might like.
This is something I've wanted Insta360 to improve for years now, and they've finally done it with the X4.
This now films in 8K, which takes a lot of processing power, but means when you frame your shot, it only goes down to 4K, which looks noticeably sharper next to the old X3 footage. It makes the 360 world feel that little bit more immersive and offers more detail when zooming in.
This also means that the other modes get a bump up as well. You see, 8K is limited to 30 frames per second. However, some faster content, like motorcycles, tends to look better at 60 frames per second. So if you never had a problem with the resolution from the X3, but would have liked a higher frame rate, you can now record at 60 frames per second in the traditional 5.7K.
Slow-mo gets bumped up as well, offering 100 FPS at 4K. And there's now also a new field of view on offer, called Mega View, which is supposed to have less distortion at the edge of the frame. So if you're filming around tall buildings, for example, the building should look less curved.
And don't worry, you can still use this like a regular action camera with single lens mode. And it also offers bikers 60 frames per second in 4K, which is awesome. Obviously, it won't look as good as their Ace Pro, which is intended for exactly this use case, but considering you only have to buy one camera, it's a good option.
And if you're a fan of filming at night, you'll be excited to hear that the low light capabilities have been improved at 5.7K 30, because these settings allow for more light to hit the sensors.
But you should be aware that filming in 8K requires a lot of processing power and therefore a lot of battery power as well. So when filming in 8K, it will record for 71 minutes on a single battery. However, that also means that now in the traditional 5.7K 30, it can record for up to 135 minutes on a single battery. That's 67% more than the X3 could, which is pretty useful.
So besides the slight dimensional change, the biggest visual difference is these notches surrounding the lenses on each side.
This is to combat the second issue, scratching the lens.
In the box, you now get these two plastic domes that twist onto these notches and protect the lenses on the camera. Because these are a lot cheaper and easier to replace than the lenses themselves.
I already told you that the lenses themselves aren't replaceable. This isn't Insta360 trying to be difficult or trying to make more money. It's because it's not really possible without losing video quality or ruining the stitch line where the images from the two lenses meet.
Previously, Insta360 has offered the sticky lens guards that just stick over the lens. But unfortunately, those also lower the optics of the lenses a bit, so this new system should fix that, and most importantly, make it easier to use.
So the ones in the box are plastic, so they're cheap to replace and work perfectly. But if you're a stickler for perfect optics, they also offer the premium lens guards that are made of glass and offer better optics. And those are the ones that I've been using.
Last year I did a motocross race and I started the day with pristine lenses, and by the end of the day I had a couple of scratches.
That day I learned that if you're filming anything like motocross, you absolutely need some sort of lens protection. So I'm really excited to see a built-in system for this. But the one downside you should know about is that these are not waterproof. So if you were to get water between the lens and the guard, it would mess with the image.
The last new camera Insta360 released was their Ace Pro, which came with some cool new features like gesture control, where you can hold your hand up like this to start and stop recording without touching the camera or talking to it, or hold up the peace sign to get it to start counting down to take a photo.
This is super useful for when the camera is mounted to the front of the bike and you can't quite reach it.
The Ace Pro also allowed you to connect their GPS preview remote, which can wirelessly control the camera from your handlebars. Or you can connect an Apple Watch or Garmin product, which will then let you overlay all the GPS data those devices recorded to get cool data like speed, route, and heading.
So you'll be happy to know that all of those features have now been brought over to the X4 as well.
And the final thing Insta360 is always working to improve is the ease of use after filming in their Insta360 mobile app and studio app on computers.
Because 360 footage can be rather overwhelming when you first start.
So once again, they've improved AI editing, so you can let it automatically edit your footage into something fun and easy. Or let DeepTrack automatically track targets for you, or do it the old-fashioned way, manually.
Honestly, these features are always getting better and are fun to play around with to make life easy. One of my favorite new-ish features is Motion ND. It blurs the environment around your subject to make your footage look faster and more cinematic. It's a much easier approach than using a real ND filter like they would on a movie set. However, if you think all of that is great, but you don't need all of those features, you'd rather just have the older camera for cheaper, well, you're in luck. they're not going to discontinue the X3. They're going to continue selling it for $100 less than the X4, so there's a camera for everyone. But anyway, that is the new X4. It's more durable and it gets better shots. So if you're interested, follow the link down in the description and I'll see you on the next ride.